Hey guys, it's Miss Abby. I'm really missing those of you who aren't able to be in person. So if you're watching from home this week, I miss you and I can't wait till I see you again. Last week, Kaylin talked about, do you guys remember what she talked about? She talked about Jesus multiplying food. Remember there was a little boy who brought his lunch and Jesus fed 5,000 people with his lunch. Do you remember that story with the bread and the fish, and he multiplied it? And Kaylin talked about how God can do big things and he can change us. And that's really great news. And we're going to learn about another big thing that God did through Jesus. But first, let's say a prayer. God, I just thank you so much for the hearts of everyone that's watching, that they want to learn about you. God, I thank you that you want us to seek after you and that you want us to learn everything we can. And so you give us the Bible and you give us friends and teachers to help us learn. God, I just pray that while we're listening to this video that we will be focused and we'll pay attention and we'll learn all about what you want us to learn, about how you do big, great things. In your precious name, amen. Today's lesson is Jesus heals 10 lepers from Luke 17. Now, on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border. As he was going to the village, 10 men who had leprosy met him, and they stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, have pity on us." When he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priest." And they went and were cleansed. One of them came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. Jesus said, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise except this foreigner?" Then he said, "Rise and go, your faith has made you well." Okay, so do you guys know what it is to have leprosy? Leprosy, because we heard in the story that there were 10 men that had leprosy. Leprosy is this sickness in the Bible, and it's still around today. It's just not really in America, so sometimes we don't think about it. But it's this sickness, it eats at your skin, and it can even, when it gets bad, it eats at your muscle and at your bone. But it also is super contagious. So everyone that had leprosy had to stay by themselves. They couldn't see their family, they couldn't see their friends. We kind of know a little bit what that's like with this coronavirus that we have going on right now. If someone gets sick, we have to stay at home and we don't get to be out and about. We thought we could get sick, so we had to stay separate from Nathan for quite a few days, my husband, and we didn't get to see him for 14 days. And it was so hard. So we understand a little bit what that's like. It's very different because they had to completely leave the house and they had to walk, and anytime they saw anyone, they had to yell out, "Unclean, unclean," and so that people would know to get away from them. And they weren't allowed to go to the temple to worship God. And again, they weren't allowed to see any of their loved ones. So it was really sad. So there were 10 men walking with leprosy, and they saw Jesus, and from far away they said, "Jesus, have pity on us, please save us." And he said, go to the priest, they'll make you well." And he healed them because they listened to what he said. They could have been like, "We've tried that, the priests have not helped us." And they could have been arrogant, but instead they trusted God and what he said. So Jesus said, "Go to the priest and they will help you." And so the men went, and their faith, because they were obedient to God, helped them. They were healed. And that's really awesome that he did that. But the story goes on to tell us that out of those 10 men, only one person came back to thank Jesus, which, the rest just ran off to their families. They were so excited to see them again. And that makes sense, kind of. Like, I can understand how people would maybe forget that. But it's still not okay. We need to be grateful for the things that God and Jesus do. So Jesus was really proud and and glad that one man came back, but he was really sad at the other 9 that they didn't. And some of them were God's people, because he said that the man that came back was Samaritan, which was, in the Bible, there were Jewish people, and there were Gentiles, and there were Samaritans. And Samaritans were Gentiles who were like really looked down upon. And this Samaritan man, even though he wasn't part of God's people, he knew to thank Jesus and to come back. And that was so good of him. And so it's a challenge for us, first off, to obey God and to trust him, because he tells us what to do, and he knows the plans for us, and he has good hope for us, and he has the power to change us like he did those men. Because they obeyed him, they were changed, they were healed. And then second lesson is to remember to always go back and be thankful for what God's done in our lives. I know a lot of times I take for granted what I have and the things that God's helped me from. Because with us, maybe in America, we don't really have leprosy going on. But what's really important for us to remember is that what makes us unclean a lot of times is the sin in our lives. It's not about the physical stuff, but it's about the sin in our lives. So I just want us to remember that, and remember that if God's going to change us on the inside and make our hearts clean and our brains clean, we have to obey and do what he says, even if it doesn't make sense. And then when we go and obey him, he's going to heal our hearts. And then we need to remember and be grateful for that. And the way to be grateful is to tell him thank you, like that man did, but also to tell other people all about God. And Easter service is coming up soon, and that's a great way that you can show that you're grateful. If you're going to be in service, you can invite your friends to come. We're going to have a little egg hunt. If you're not going to be in service, just have them watch our video. And let them know that they can still learn about God even if they're not going to be able to come to in person. I love you guys, and I hope you get a lot out of this lesson. And again, I miss you, and I will see you soon. Bye.